Guys, it's time to see what went wrong with WoW Midnight, because apparently Final Fantasy XIV shares the exact same problem. Now, I heard a lot about Dawntrail being bad and the story being absolute garbage, but I haven't seen any of it myself. I only played until Shadowbringers, which was an insanely good expansion. I have watched Endwalker, so I do hold this game very close to my heart. It gave me the best 6 months of my life. I truly enjoyed the fantastic story it offered. So hearing it got butchered actually kind of made me sad. That being said, WoW Midnight is really bad. I'm about to start playing it soon because, I have one subscription to go and then I'm out. I'm gonna maximize my efforts. I'm gonna probably play it every day, unfortunately, to your dismay and mine. And I'm gonna try to get all the stuff like high keys on Mythic Plus and of course high level rating. I'm gonna do all of that. I'm playing as a tank. Right now I'm not gonna lie, I do play as a tank and it's really fun playing as a tank. But at the same time, the entire premise of the game is just, oh man, I can go on and on, but let's just start the video.
Midnight and Dawntrail are both highly contentious stories, but for very different reasons. In today's video, let's take a look at both of these expansions' 0.0 narratives and find out why they were so disappointing for so many. Hello everybody, it's your boy Jamals, and I've played through both of these stories for Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft.
Ooh.
So let's dive in and take a look.
You know he's gonna speak fast because he's
let's
bald.
look at each expansion story individually, so we can be best
trust
equipped
him.
to discuss the failings or even rare successes of each. Let's begin with Dawntrail, and let's look at why Dawntrail fell so flat. Dawntrail was the first expansion after the Hydaelyn and Zodiac arc that dominated Final Fantasy XIV for so long. It features a highly satisfying sense of finality to a story running for 10 years. So transitioning a player base from those highs into an expansion that features a far less grandiose narrative while featuring a lot of setup, it was always going to be a tall task. But in my eyes, not insurmountable. Dawntrail offered a tonal reset, really leaning on its summertime vibes of going to the new world in this tropical land, and instead of dealing with existential cataclysms and the finality of life, we help elect some random cat girl we found in a cardboard box one day become the ruler of some overseas kingdom.
Hey, you know what? At least it's not a Dracfear. Have you looked at these creatures? Man, they are abhorrent. But regardless, I think the FF14 biggest issue was not moving to a new engine. I think that most people accepted Endwalker as being a really great expansion because it continued on the foundations that everyone were already used to. But when you do a fresh start and a whole reset, essentially, and you're not moving to a new engine, then people are gonna look at it weird. I know that I have. Because if Dawntrail would have been like a huge graphical update to the game, not in terms of visuals even, I don't really care about visuals, just the engine itself. It's so limited in its capabilities, like they really have to change it. But if they had, I would have played the game right now. 100% I would have played the game. Like, no question asked. But whenever you refuse to do that for, some obscure reason, you're gonna lose a lot of players. 100%.
Yeah, I can get down with that, especially when we're splitting the Scions up into competing camps based on candidates. Sure, this could be a good fun time to help transition us into whatever is supposed to come next. So what went wrong? Well, if you ask 100 people, you will probably get 101 different responses. But to me, the problems were glaring. Pacing and priorities. Large swaths of Dawntrail's story just felt overly slow and dragged out, and this is particularly potent when paired up with that other issue I mentioned, priorities. Because the things we were doing during the 0.0 campaign for the Rite of Succession just weren't interesting. A story arc's all about having these candidates perform a series of deeds in search of the mythical City of Gold largely felt like slogs to get through when all we were really doing was helping Wu Clement tame an alpaca, which happened off screen, and that was a whole arc by the way. I mean, we also built a float, fought a giant bird monster, which was pretty good, but we kind of weirdly sped past this section, and we had most of like Valagamonda's feats take place off camera, or they happen just in the trial itself.
Did he said feet? Wait, did I heard him say feet? Wait. Is he talking about FF14 or World of Warcraft? I'm confused now.
He also spent a
That's all they talk
shocking
about in
amount
WoW.
of time just making and learning about tacos. And it's like, yeah, there's some okay history there, but again, priorities here. I get the idea behind the intent, because the intent behind these arcs is obvious. You think Karate Kid, where seemingly dull and mundane activities are
What
meant
is
to
that?
represent larger principles, and stuff like this can work, just the pacing needs to be precise. And it simply felt far too dragged out and uninteresting in the moment. The first half of the campaign felt more like a series of side quests than a meaningful, whimsical adventure to hunt down a mysterious city of gold. In my mind, that entire first half should have felt more like Uncharted or an Indiana Jones adventure, instead of just feeling like a history class. You pair that with the tone of the story going for a more lighthearted, almost Saturday morning cartoon, compared to the seriousness of both Shadowbringers and Endwalker.
Meteon, though I gave you these wings to soar the heavens, I did not teach you how to walk the earth. So loath was I to bind another living being. In the course of your long journey, you will learn from those you meet. Learn to walk and run.
Incredible.
So much more. A flower.
Incredible. I mean, you do compare between the two, and it's kind of suck, obviously.
I will give
But I
you
don't think that's a major
a
issue.
flower.
I don't think that is. I mean,
And
I
it was
think people
total
could have had fun
whiplash
with
to the
it,
extreme.
regardless.
Not the trial difficulty, you rascals. Especially when you have resolution.
I mean, I don't really agree with that point. Like, people can go from high to lows, and they do it every single day, right? I mean, you watch TV series, you don't have peaks at all times. I mean, you have great stories, you end them up, you continue another one. It's not like, oh, now I have to go through the slog of a very boring beginning. I don't think that's true. On the contrary, I think a lot of people like new beginnings. I do. It's just a matter of how well you do them. That's really the main thing here. So I disagree with his point on that. I don't think the problem is that we went from high to a low. I think the problem is we went from like really, really high and good writing to just bad one.
To the ox, sometimes boiling down to this almost bizarrely out of place dialogue. Like I'm watching Sesame Street or something.
How would you have us reclaim our glory?
Yeah, so it's bad writing.
With friendship and
It's
community.
no.
It feels more parody than anything. Now,
Not the Blizzard answer. Oh God, why? What? Please don't tell me that the power of friendship is an actual tangible thing inside of the game, because WoW has it, and man, I sure would not like to see it in Final Fantasy XIV.
a lot of criticism has centered around the main character for Dawntrail, Wuklamat. And while, yeah, I don't really like the character myself, she felt more symptomatic.
Yeah, and
of
also,
logic.
why were you talking about one character for like a quarter of the video? Is she all of the expansion is about? Like, there's nothing else? Or, like, who is she? Who cares about her? Why would you ever make an expansion revolved around one, like, person? That's so weird.
And fundamental issues with Dawntrail rather than the cause of those issues. Tone, writing quality, pacing, dialogue, feeling as if the story was trying to target a far younger demographic than it has before.
No, not the
And in
modern
key
audience
moments,
again.
The suspension just felt borderline non-existent, and it fell through due to writing that felt forced and illogical, such as the death of
I love the... Someone just typed in the chat, I love the WoW token. You know what? I respect that. It was so out of pocket.
To rival candidate for the throne and antagonist Zaralja. We are told to let it happen, little bro, because Ma'ana. But this dude is leading an invasion of Tuliolol and wiping out swaths of
Damn,
the
who's
population,
that?
seemingly indiscriminately. And we just
That's
let the
kinda
guy
base.
win instead of having the multiple scions and us as the warrior of freaking light interfere and try to do anything at all. Dawntrail often felt like it simply didn't know how to write the Warrior of Light. The story wanted to respect our strength and try to put us in positions where we simply couldn't resolve situations with it, like Wuklama getting kidnapped, or having someone else deal with it as a matter of honor. That can work, but the story needs to be written to where that makes some kind of sense.
So basically, instead of the story being revolved around you, you were being like the sidekick of like this cat person, right? If I'm getting this correctly. So it's, wow, it's really just bad writing. That's all that it comes down to.
we weren't just some washed-up old teacher trying to train the next generation, we're arguably also just still in our prime, especially after the events of Endwalker. It's like they wanted us to be Mr. Miyagi, but we're not some old dude. Giant impactful scenes like this just not delivering can have drastically
Again, we're
souring
watching
effects
her
on the
playing.
overall story because
We're not
it's
doing
apparent
anything.
this is supposed to be one of the biggest scenes in the entire story, and when it falls flat, that compromises everything around it. Speaking of souring effects, a bit before this section, we actually found the City of Gold. Huzzah! And it looked cool and technologically advanced, which to me was a fascinating juxtaposition to the technologically less advanced aesthetic we had been dealing with up to this point. And it would have been such a really cool reveal alongside Alexandria later on if they hadn't advertised these things with the expansion. So we knew they were coming, it was just a matter of when. Seriously, like looking back on it, I understand you wanted to sell the expansion and you thought the summer vacation angle wasn't going to be sufficient, but I think a reveal like this is best not to be spoiled multiple times in trailers and FanFest. Getting back on point though, I mean, when we get there, sure, I'm excited. Let's find out what's behind this giant door gate thing. Let's go explore the City of Gold. I mean, I've been waiting since FanFest after all. We just covered that. I mean, we would explore it if the game didn't turn us around and tell us to leave it behind. It's like,
What?
yay, Wu Clamat won. She's the Vow Resolve now. Let's go deal with that. It's like, brother, City of Gold's right there. I would like to explore it, please. Dawntrail sometimes just feels like a glorified blue ball simulator. And then it kicks us off to go do the Texas/Arizona zone. And like, look, I am a fan
Classic.
of Westerns myself.
You gotta hit
but
him with a
even then,
Mexico
the
filter,
Cowboy
too.
Zone isn't even that good. And it's the most filler arc story they've ever done, rivaling like the trolley section from Shadowbringers. But it's an entire zone this time. It's slow, tedious. There's a couple of somewhat funny Western parodies, and we also get to see Estinian for like what, 2 seconds? But why
Damn, I
wasn't
miss
the whole
Estinian.
zone just one giant
was ultra
John
base.
Wayne movie? Where were the cowboy hats? We just had cat boys. Where's the fun? It's the most bog standard Western parody possible, and executed in the most boring way possible. Alright, well that's over. Thankfully, we have the invasion of Tulialol right after. But then we immediately transition to that previous issue with Galul Jar
They
Jar's
were
death,
exporting
and that takes place
Dalaran.
right after
It's
this.
fine.
But thankfully, this marks a turning point, because this is where we introduce Alexandria. And while there are still definitely some slow and sluggish portions of the second half of the MSQ, overall I do think the quality goes up, primarily because we're actually tackling things that are somewhat interesting. Learning about Electrope and the utilization of souls and how we have to overcome that. It's far more engaging for a story than just learning about the history of Atako. We are also introduced to a character that's pretty dang fun to have on the screen and who would later go on to become one of my favorite characters. If you want to count them all as the same character, it's kind of hard to do that. Let's talk Queen's Fane. Or more specifically, let's talk about the theme of this entire like expansion after we get her introduction, because yeah, the theme that is tackled is very similar to what we just had covered back in Endwalker's point oh, and while I would agree I think Endwalker did it better, I don't think that necessarily means Dawntrail did it bad either. But for some people, arguably a lot of people, when you follow something up that just did what you're doing but better, it makes you look worse in comparison. But Alexandria and
Again, not exactly. I don't think people expected the beginning of a new story to be as good as the ending of like what, a 6-part story tale. Like nobody expected that. They just wanted a good writing, and clearly, you did not have that.
Queen's Fiend's play for immortality through the endless, it had great visuals, and I think it was pretty well told overall, particularly in the Zone of Living Memory, which was just a great experience overall to me. Not Ultima Thule good, but an IGN 7 out of 10 good. I think it's safe to say, for me at least, Dawntrail started off unreasonably slow and uninteresting, but while it doesn't ascend to the heights of what came
I forgot how the little guys are called at Final Fantasy XIV. Like, every MMO gotta have small dudes. I forgot how they were called at, like, at Final Fantasy XIV. They're not as bad as the Azura, and I don't think they're even, like, worse than gnomes. I think maybe they should be higher up on the list, but at the same time, they're not even remotely close to, like, good races out there. Oh, Lalafels, yeah, exactly. You know what? Maybe I'll put them behind gnomes.
before, it is able to somewhat dig itself out of the hole it
Yeah,
put
nothing
itself
is
in. And just
worse than the
because
Asura,
Dawntrail is
though.
the start of
It's
something
fine.
new, it doesn't mean it has to be bad. I've seen that defense be peddled out. And also, this is where we get the benefit of hindsight, because at the time, we didn't know if the style and tone of dialogue we got in Dawntrail's 0.0 was going to be the norm, or if they would be able to course correct. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a big fan of what they did with patches 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and what 0.5 is shaping up to be. For me, they've reaffirmed that Dawntrail was a one-off instead of the start of some kind of new normality. I can forgive a bad one-off, especially when you don't really compromise or ruin anything that came before. Just having a bad story or having some old characters be a bit bland now, sure, that's not good, but like, I've been in the trenches when it comes to the bastardization of the IP that I love and cherish. This is
We all
nowhere near
have.
that. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, it's going to
just having a
transition
bad
to WoW,
story,
of course.
Sure, let's not do that again, but it's not like it retroactively makes Emmett Selk a terrible character or ruins the world building we had in Eorzea. Speaking of, let's transition over to World of
Yeah,
Warcraft's
there-
latest
here it
expansion,
comes.
Midnight. Enter Fiddle Lady.
The part you've all been waiting for.
Okay, let's begin. Midnight did something no WoW expansion ever really did before.
It sucked balls. Oh, no, wait. No, Blizzard had already done that, my bad.
Went back to one of the most beloved locations in all of Azeroth's history and remade it. And now that I'm saying that, ignore Cataclysm, because that kind of did it first. This one's more focused, at least. We are going back to the home of the Blood Elves, Quel'Thalas. And
Yes.
we actually have a reason to go to Silvermoon and be there for longer than 5 minutes.
Woo, let's go.
And we're getting a
Very
fully
good.
fleshed out Zulaman. I mean, what else can I ask for? Like, if you're a fan of WoW's history and
Actually good gameplay, great community to play the game with, and developers that truly listen to their fan base. But no, instead we're getting some Rainbow Darkspiral Troll Dash event that nobody've asked for. Awesome.
story like I am.
Great.
This sounds
I
absolutely
love you, Blizzard.
awesome. It's something I've been wanting for years. Like ever since I was a kid. What went wrong though? Well, a lot. Also, quite a few of the typical WoW writing issues just made themselves particularly felt here. Couple of the same ones from Dawntrail after all. Pacing, dialogue, and prioritization. One of their biggest issues is pacing though, so let's focus on this because it's the complete opposite problem of Dawntrail. Dawntrail just
Infinite
had
time
really
gate.
slow pacing where we were often doing things that just didn't feel engaging. It was slow and sluggish. WoW blows through the important stuff way too quickly and then slogs through other less interesting bits for some reason. For leveling, you start out with being teleported to the Sunworld to defend it against antagonist Xal'atath's devouring host. Really cool intro section. Like, unironically, I don't have many issues with it. Sure, I could probably nitpick a few things.
But I mean, how can it be cool when you've done this 7 times by this point? Every single expansion is like the end of the world and you get her up and you come along together with heroes to defend Azeroth. Bro, it lost its flavor like after the 3rd time. We did this in Legion, we did it like, what, Draenor, I guess maybe you won't really like count that. We did it in BFA, we did it in Shadowlands, guys, when does it end? It's just so annoying. Nobody really cares anymore. It's like the world is at risk of dying or exploding every other day. So what's the point? It lost all meaning. There's no build-up. There's no tension. You just know that you're gonna clear the current villain of the day, and you're gonna wake up tomorrow, and it's gonna be a new one. There's no point to anything that you do.
Like some animations here and there, but like overall it's pretty dang good and one of the best examples of Blizzard actually portraying a battle in game. So a great start to the expansion.
I mean,
right?
at least
Yes,
Turalyon
it sets
didn't
the
die
tone.
at the
Sure,
tutorial
some
island.
goofy animations that
It's
I
fine.
said before, but overall for World of Warcraft it's good stuff. Then we get to the proper leveling zones that just immediately feel like filler arcs. And this is one of WoW's oldest problems, where they introduce the A-plot immediately, and then don't really flesh it out in a meaningful way until you get back to it at max level or near max level. They just use the leveling to introduce the zones and new cultures to you. Sometimes they're able to get away with it, but it's felt here because they have all this time to flesh out the main story, and they just choose to not really do that. And the filler arcs that we do get are so painfully predictable and haphazardly put together, it's just hard to take seriously. Like, at least with Dawntrail, we had a character arc for Wook Lamont. Like, sure, wasn't particularly good, but there was at least one there. This was like watching 4 different bound oxen bleach. Let me give you the premise for the Zulaman zone. And I want you to think of exactly what's going to happen, because you're probably going to be right. So the Blood Elves and the Amani trolls hate each other. They've been killing each other for a long time. But
classic feud.
You won't believe this. There's a greater evil affecting both Eversong, home of the Blood Elves, and Zulaman, home of the Amani.
Why there's always gotta be a greater evil, man? Like, why can't just trolls hate each other? I mean, what's going on to the world? What have we forgotten? We have lost something. We've lost meaning. I mean, cannot there be inside of World of Warcraft, like, just tribe on tribe conflict? The Horde was literally founded on that very foundation. Like, can't we just have that? It is so annoying. Why? There's gotta be greater evil everywhere. It's the same thing with the jailer in Shadowlands. No, Sylvanas wasn't bad. She was doing the jailer bidding, right? Like, why Sylvanas can be bad? I don't get it. You clearly wanted her to be a villain. Why aren't you giving her an out? It's just such lame writing, man. I truly have nothing to say. It's just so abhorrent. I just had enough of it. Like, can't people just be evil? Or maybe just give them morals and stuff. Of course, give them reasons to do what they done. But don't blame it on someone else. It's like Blizzard really like pinning the blame on other people. It's like whenever nobody's buying their expansions and they're calling them bigots. It's the same thing. They're skipping it inside of the game.
Amani are on the brink of losing to the Void, so their leader, Zuljara, accepts us as the champion and leader of the Blood Knights, Lady Liadrin, to enter Zulaman with her to fend off the Void. But the gods of the Amani, the Loa, have abandoned them, and Zuljara must go on a quest around
I would have
the zone
abandoned them too.
to rebuild the connections the Amani used to have with their Loa by performing various trials, so you and Liadrin follow her around in doing so. Liadrin and...
What are the in-game cinematics? What is that quality? There's gotta be... Like, there was a sharp drop while I was gone. That's insane.
Zuljara, they don't start off on the friendliest of terms because one's a blood elf, one's an Amani. They don't really like each other. Oh, also Zuljara has a hothead brother who's very aggressive and wants to take the fight to the Void. I'm sure that won't cause any problems. Now, do you figure that it's just going to be a story where Liadrin and Zuljara bridge the gap
Every
over
single
the course
character
of the
is
story
throwing
and eventually
tantrum.
become trusted friends, while her patience and planning ends up being the correct course of action?
And I mean, you can clearly tell that every single character is just a main child throwing tantrum instead of being, like, well written, because you can directly compare it to Grom Hellscream. Grom Hellscream was extremely impatient. He was the one solidifying the sentence, "I can wait no longer." Okay? If you played Warcraft 3 campaign, you already know what I'm referring to. So, he was a very well-made character because you knew he was insanely aggressive, but he was also savage, barbaric, and very, very clever. He had a lot of tactical prowess, and he was a good, well-written character. At the end, he even redeemed himself. But when you see a new age Blizzard character just going around doing stuff impatiently, just, you know, waltzing off and attacking someone, they always get humiliated. Because it's like they never can come on top. It's like they have no reasoning whatsoever behind it. It's like, oh, I'm mad now, so I'm going to attack you. Can't you write a character that is not completely neurotic? Can't you just have characters actually do stuff because they have values? What are we doing here? Why are we always basing our characters off emotions? Why can't there be logic behind some of them? It's just, that's the part that cringes me out.
Her aggressive brother turns out to be a hothead and get people killed while we are off collecting Loa Pokemon. Congratulations, you would be correct. Let's go. Now, there's at least the framing that Zul'Jin, the brother, is somewhat correct, that sacrifices would have to happen in a conflict of this scale and you can't be afraid of them happening overall. But the overall story, man, it's so tropey and by the numbers that it's hard to be invested because you just know what's going to basically happen each step of the way. It doesn't help this also follows the story flow of a previous zone they've already done back in Nazmia during Battle for Azeroth, where that zone was also all about going around and collecting various lowers for a big climactic fight at the end of the zone story. By the way, this is the best zone of the expansion. This is the high point. Harandar is arguably even more egregious. Tell me if you've heard this one before. There's a society who only we just found out about, I guess. But they were there the entire time, trust.
Of course.
And they are very...
The jailer was promised to me in Warcraft 3. Okay, he was there. You just didn't really pay attention to the fine details.
Isolationist and wary of outsiders and their influence. Ooh. So you go to meet them with a Haraner who wants to see the outside world, but her people are against this, and you must prove yourself to them through some trials. But
I hate Blizzard. I hate Blizzard with every ounce of my being. I hate the Labubu millennial writers that constantly self-insert themselves into the World of Warcraft lore. I just hate, I want to be on the outside world, but my tribe prevents me from doing so. Oh, you know that the person who wrote it was just living behind a gated community, and he feels bad about not experiencing a single adversity in his life, that he just has to make shit up. It's so cringe, and it's on the nose, too. It's abhorrent, man. Just going through this process is such a harrowing experience. I can't believe what it's like actually being like this guy who wrote it. It's just horrendous. Sorry, I instantly assumed it was a guy.
Wary of outsiders, but you won't believe it. A greater threat rears its ugly head, and when you're in your hour of need, they show up to save the day for some reason and start the trend of opening up to the wider world. That's the story. It doesn't help that for giant swaths of the leveling campaign, we deal with holy grass called Lightbloom as an antagonistic force.
What?
It's also the primary antagonist in the Harandar story, or at least the antagonistic force. And it just doesn't
the main
really
villain is the
an
ground
appearance in the max level campaign. I mean, so far at least, but seriously, Eversong as a zone story is like half Lifebloom, and the other half feels like a segue for Erator's later campaign chapter. We'll get to him, and also Zulaman. We go from the Sunwell intro scenario, which was intriguing, to 3 filler arcs. Actually, make it 4. Let's deal with Erator. So Midnight does something where the premise of it is really good. So instead of an entire new zone, let's go back to the old world. Slight problem. You know how Wuklamad is the protagonist of Dawntrail? Well, Midnight's protagonist is Erator, son of Turalian and Illyria. Welcome to another story about some young, well, for elves at least he's young, and technically he's a half-elf, but still, relatively young up-and-comer that's just trying to find a place for himself in the wider world. Have you seen this character before? I'm sure you have, and I'm sure we'll see characters like him 1,000 more times. We go around collecting artifacts to help out the people channeling into the Sunwell against the Void, all the while helping Erator find out what kind of paladin he wants to be because he's having a lot of doubts.
He needs to find himself, of course. He needs to go on a journey to realize that the true paladin was inside him all along.
Because in a moment of light blindness, I won't even get into that one, his father tried to kill Zul'Jan, that troll from earlier. But Erator leapt in front of the blade, and now he's being emo about it, because of course he is. So to properly revisit the story with the Void, i.e. the...
And it all really just goes to show you who writes the story nowadays. It's not Chris Metzen. Okay, guys? That's not him. He's not the one doing this. You can trust that. Maybe he's like focused on building the world and that's pretty much it, just setting the base premise, but he ain't writing the story. No way that character was written by him. It's so abhorrent. It's disgusting, man. I've used this word 3 times by now and it's still not enough. It's just revolting, man. It makes me want to hurl. Truly. They're all self-inserting because they all care about, literally, all that Blizzard writers care about is being narcissistic with hyperinflated ego that all they want to do is self-aggrandize themselves. Like, that is all. It's too much delusions of grandeur for me to handle. I honestly can't play this game. I really cannot. At least not without completely ignoring the story, which is very unfortunate because story is what pulls me to video game in the first place. I really care about lore and immersion. Sue me, right?
Plot, we have to wait until the final leveling zone, Voidstorm, which, to be fair, it's pretty alright. I mean, it's a good zone in my opinion. And then the max level campaign happens, and using those zones as filler or to build up for 2 seconds of payoff comes back to bite them massively in the behind, because they clearly didn't give enough time to themselves to build out the story that they're trying to tell. And in the span of a couple of hours, we not only invade the Void Spy to take the fight to Xal'atath, we also lose the Sunwell, it becomes the Darkwell, Xal'atath captures the Dark Naru that is inside of Valeria, and now we have to deal with the Darkwell. In order to do so, we then bring together the various elven tribes together in the span of like an hour. Also ignore the Horde and the Alliance, Blizzard kind of forgot about them. We then lay siege to the Darkwell, beat back Xal'atath, defeat the Dark Naru, and win the day, and cleanse the Darkwell and turn it into the Dawnwell. Mind you, this all takes place in like the span of 2 to 3 hours. No, I am not exaggerating. They build things up like the Darkwell to be this giant threat. They build up this idea that we have to unify the elves and bring them all together. It was something they talked about back at BlizzCon as one of the key elements for the expansion. Again,
yeah, just like we brought the Horde and the Alliance together in like 5 different expansions. Of course, we need to do it again, but this time on a bit smaller scale. It's so dumb. It is so dumb. It's really... Guys, there's so many times you can do the same thing. It's not going to fly for the 5th time. It just won't. I mean, what's the point of a story and world you don't care about? Exactly. But you'd be surprised. Blizzard truly do not care about the story anymore because they underestimate or undervalue what story means to the game. But they don't realize that story is actually integral to build a community that is loyal to your games. I think that most people don't quit WoW because they actually did like the story back in the day. Nowadays it's just pure addiction and like whales and microtransaction and stuff and, you know, quick dopamine hits. But back in the day, it's just the lore. People played to experience the world to its fullest. But nowadays, that's not the case. They make everything rapid. The gameplay is just cycled. It's like Path of Exile or Diablo. You just do the content, then you come back. It's like everything reset, you do it again. And it's the same with the story. The story just repeats itself. It's rehashed garbage. There's no progression. And honestly, Blizzard's mistake started with Wrath of the Lich King. Because Wrath of the Lich King should have been the end of World of Warcraft. They should have made WoW 2 after that, or make the Cataclysm happen, like, 10,000 years into the future. It shouldn't have happened right away. Old WoW should have stayed old WoW, and new WoW should have been something completely different. But now they're milking the same characters that we don't really care about anymore, and they're trying to make it look good. It's never going to work. Never.
And ignore the Horde and the Alliance. And it's all covered so shockingly quickly that nothing has staying power or emotional pull. It's just a series of plot points haphazardly hit to meet a quota instead of trying to tell a story, and then the Darkwell is cleansed to become the Dawnwell in like under an hour. And numerous different plot lines are basically all tied up here at the same time, and boom, point .0 is over. By the way, this is a very brief overview of what happened, because they crammed even more throughout this short section that was, by the way, time-gated over the first few weeks of the expansion's launch. This was the whole reunification of the elves that we were told about all those years ago back at BlizzCon. Unification.
Bro, is this Sylvanas? What happened, man? She needs some serious facelift. That's crazy. Is that her? No, wait, no, that's gotta be someone else. If that's her, I'm crying. Dude, that's look disgusting. Why does every single character look so smooth? I don't know. Maybe it's to fit their smooth, like, brain pattern.
Of the elves that we were told about all those years ago back at BlizzCon.
In this chapter, you will be returning to the fabled lands of Quel'Thalas. There, the forces of the Void have invaded Azeroth. Intent on snuffing out the light of the Sunwell.
Sounds cool on paper.
Into darkness and fear. You will not only help reunify the scattered elven tribes of Azeroth.
So you got any large stones and boulders that the Elder can fling at our foes.
That's so insane to see the juxtaposition. But again, I think he's just building the framework to Blizzard to fill. but Blizzard has no idea how to fill it, so they just throw crap at it and like, you know what? We did what he said. We just did it poorly.
He is refusing to wake up until he has something to throw.
But you will make your stand with the forces of the light and banish the shadow forever.
Let this mark a new dawn for our people.
Yeah, the models look disgusting. Yeah, Chris Metzen is just being used as a hype man, I agree. I agree. It just like...
For the kingdom of Quel'Thalas,
Wow.
our high home.
Why aren't they holding hands, though? I can't believe they're together until they do. They seem pretty detached
was done
from each
to
other.
one of the most beloved corners of Azeroth that finally saw some proper spotlight. It existed solely to jam in a story into way shorter time and to fundamentally change long-standing elements of the Blood Elves so new, modern writers can stake their
There it
claim
is.
on this story.
He
The
said it.
desecration of the Sunwell into the Darkwell could have been cool if they gave themselves any amount of time to properly build it up and give it focus or actually treat it like a threat. We deal with it basically immediately. Instead, they focus on near worthless filler arcs that serve just to justify almost certainly a coming troll-based patch and an MCU on your left-esque scene, because Blizzard loves doing those. But instead,
Yeah, it's crazy how much inspiration Blizzard actually drew from the MCU. It's the same jokes, it's the same writing. You know what? I'm actually not even going to be surprised if I ever found out it's the same writers. And like, don't get me wrong. I loved a lot of MCU movies, but the later ones, oh my god, they were abhorrent. I didn't even watch like 80% of those. And this is the reason why. It's because it's just straight up hot garbage. Like, it's not entertaining. It's not even funny to laugh at it anymore. It's just sad and pathetic. Yeah, it's the same writers, it's the same Hollywood slop writing, exactly. And it's so forced and on the nose, too. It's like, you can hear the laugh tracks going in the background. It's just a sitcom at this point.
Just exists to shove plot points down our throat like I'm reading a TikTok movie summary with an AI voice calling the main character Jack. Also that they can practically regurgitate the wrap-up to
Oh,
the
it's not
Burning
Sylvanas.
Crusade
Okay, that
and
wasn't
call
her.
it the
No, wait, that was
Dawntrail
her.
now, and take away the real...
I'm so confused. That can be Sylvanas. They look like way too different. The other one was Sylvanas. By the way, guys, have you...
voice calling the main character Jack.
Like, have you noticed how all of these female characters look like... I think, Barbara, you are the one saying that, and you're so true about that. They're looking like those Miami moms that just fill themselves with Botox and doing plastic surgeries. That is so true. That is absolutely true. I don't know why they opted for this look. What happened to have unique facial features? They all look the same.
Also that they can practically regurgitate the wrap-up to the Burning Crusade and call it the Dawnwell now, and take away the really cool toy the Blood Elves used to have that made them famous, that made them unique. All in some measly attempt to make Alliance
They're not
role
even
players feel
animated.
somewhat welcome
Their
in a
facial
whole
features
capital
are
city.
frozen.
It's such a mishandling of current but also established lore that it, like Shadowlands before it, irrevocably tarnishes beloved swaths of the lore, all in service of telling one of the least compelling narratives I've ever seen from World of Warcraft, and that's saying something. Sure, WoW never really focused on narrative before, but it's clear Blizzard wants to change that, and they want people to take the main story and the characters of World of Warcraft far more seriously, but they don't put in the work, they don't give themselves enough time, and they just fundamentally misunderstand the world and story in service of telling the hyper-specific story they want to tell. All the while, they end up ignoring giant elements of the world that would make way more sense in the moment, but it doesn't fit their vision, so they ignore them instead of providing a logical and believable reason on not including them. We focus on the reunification of the elves when the Forsaken, an ally to the Blood Elves and other part of the Horde, are closer than the Night Elves. We go out of our way to recruit and be talked down to by those Night Elves because we had the Sunwell for so long. What are we doing? Like, even for World of Warcraft, this story is straight up embarrassing.
Damn.
Now, the reason
He's
I'm
going
only
at him.
comparing .0 Midnight and .0 Dawntrail is because it just wouldn't be fair to compare the stories in Dawntrail .1, 2, 3, 4, and soon to be 5 to just .0 Midnight. And when we're only looking at those two stories, to me, Dawntrail is superior. And there are levels to this. Dawntrail suffered from a boring start to a new story, but it didn't compromise on already established and beloved sections of the lore. It was just boring. Until Alexandria made it somewhat interesting. Midnight takes one of the most beloved corners of the world and hits it with the modern writing bat. Takes away the cool—
Yeah, so basically FF14 has built solid foundations to go on, and Midnight just threw everything away right at the start. So, yeah, I guess it is what it is, man. We're not going to enjoy Midnight anytime soon. Oh, man. I was looking forward to it.
And establish elements of the lore to replace it in a terribly told story with something that just lacks that cool factor the Sunwell once had. All the while kind of forgetting we already were supposed to
Brother,
have
which
told
game?
this
Where wins
story
me today?
back in TBC. But the writers feel the need to recontextualize all
I
the
just
old
need to
stuff
finish this
because
video.
when they have new ideas, no one cares either way.
Yikes, I
Because
still
it
can't
doesn't
believe that's
involve
real.
anything people actually care about.
I
so
need
they
solid
have
proof.
to take the stuff that is beloved and put their own spin on it and make it crap. Dawntrail also benefits from hindsight. I know, and I'm sure a lot of you out there know this as well. If you've played the patches, the story does get way better. And Final Fantasy XIV has told amazing stories before, so 7.0 feels more like a hiccup that we just hope isn't repeated with 8.0.
Well, World of Warcraft
Now-
used to tell really great stories too, but no one believes them anymore. Also, look at the dragons. Why do they look so weak and pathetic? My God.
Has always
Yikes.
had massive issues with its story, especially in-game. Even during its heydays, the in-game story often wasn't the reason. Or it benefited from the world and the characters just being so dang cool.
That was such a
it
cool
more
trailer.
than made up for
Such
whatever
a good
story
trailer.
they were actually telling. But now we just get losers shoved down our throats that have the complexity of a Pringles can that continues a worsening trend for the story and storytelling. in
imagine
this
being
game
a
that
man in
arguably
modern
goes
World of
all the way
Warcraft.
back to BFA if not before. Ruining beloved and established characters, bad pacing, bad dialogue, unremarkable characters, the list goes on. So Midnight doesn't feel like it has the chance to just be a one-off bad story, it's just another domino in a long chain of them. And you want to know the funny thing? When it comes to gameplay, WoW and Final Fantasy XIV have the opposite problems of each other for me. Besides
True.
class design being contentious—
That's the only reason WoW survives. It's because it has superior gameplay. World of Warcraft gameplay is truly like none others, right? The only game I would say come close is like Guild Wars 2, but that's not even close to World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft combat has always been superior to every MMO out there. It's just really, really good. You can't really do anything about it. They've truly cracked the code. And that's what makes it all the more sad when the game is in such a dire state. Because the gameplay is fun. It is fun. If you just take your engine and make the story good, people would play the hell out of WoW. But no, Blizzard would never do that. Why? Because we need Labubu millennials to feel good about themselves. We need Blizzard to virtue signal at our expense. And guess what? They're charging some more for cash up items. That's great. By the way, if you live in Brazil, enjoy the new prices, even though the servers are in California.
Right now for both, Final Fantasy XIV is maligned for long gaps of time between major patches and having to wait for .x5 patches for a bulk of the content for the patch. On top of that, 2026 is looking to be a very light year, as is kind of usual for the wait for the next expansion, and people just want more to do in-game. World of Warcraft, on the other hand, shoves content out the door so quickly that it's borderline almost overwhelming. And the concern—
No, the content is so barren, there's no point even calling it content in the first place. Like, oh, we got a little new zone that you can finish under an hour. Nobody cares. That's why they, started shifting to the cyclical content, right? Because they want to keep you hooked. It's basically built on short dopamine hits. Because what you did back in the day is that you played World of Warcraft, you got geared in a raid, and then you had to wait for the, other phase. You just disabled your subscription. No, Blizzard at the time did not care. You enjoy the game? Okay, good. Awesome. We'll see you on the next one. Or maybe you continue your subscription and actually make an alt account. That's what I did. I never canceled my WoW subs. I always stayed sub to the game because I truly enjoyed playing it continuously. But nowadays, it feels like they're constantly dangling a shiny new bait in front of you because they want to get you hooked, and after they got you, like, they throw you out. They do not care.
Is that they put stuff out so quickly and frequently that they probably aren't giving themselves enough time to make the content itself really meaningful. And it can often feel like they're repetitive.
It's quantity over quality nowadays.
Instead of like introducing some meaningful gameplay, but that's not always the case. This is one of like modern WoW's strong points right now. Like back in the War Within, they reintroduced horrific visions. Yeah, remember those from BFA? They brought them back with new masks, a new companion you can like pal around with.
Wow.
I normally just turn them off, and new
That's
rewards.
crazy.
In the War Within, they added delves as a whole new endgame feature alongside Mythic Plus and Raid.
Yes.
And then
the solo feature inside of my MMORPG, great job. And I mean, delves are fun. I did a couple of them, but it's not World of Warcraft, man. It's not. It doesn't fit. This is PoE. This is Diablo. It's not World of Warcraft.
Expanded the offerings available to you as the player in Midnight once again by not only developing more dungeons and raids, iterating on the delve concept, but also introducing a whole new thing called Prey for the overworld. And yeah, is it perfectly executed? No, but like I still view
Bring
it
back
to be
Azerite
really
power.
Good addition to the game. And when it comes to
Magni
the
can
overall
be
game
left
state,
alone.
besides class design, you could make an argument Midnight is the best shape the game has been in such a long time. It's just the main...
yeah, because Blizzard didn't set the bar high enough. It's like, it's literally underground. Of course it's better at state. Like, yeah, sure. But it's still trash. Like, what are we even talking about here? That's such a bogus claim. Only retail mind-brained addicts that are out of their damn mind and needs to be institutionalized are saying that. Nobody with a sensible, capable... let me say it this way. No human being capable of critical thinking and rational thought would ever utter this garbage. Never. Only retail addicts will say that. It's so insane.
Story that is so bad, it's jarring to look at it side by side with everything else because Blizzard are doing a lot right with WoW nowadays. I forgot to mention, they also added player housing in with Midnight, and it's really dang good. I prefer it over
until
the
you pay
housing
money.
that's available in Final Fantasy XIV. And again, it just makes the main story stick out like a sore thumb. Whereas for Dawntrail, it took...
Oh damn, he didn't even talk about the real money element of the housing system. So yeah, Blizzard basically added a currency called Heartsteel where you can buy stuff for your house, paying real life money, your hard-earned doubloons, because Blizzard not only wants you to be poor in real life, they want you to see it inside of their game too. That's amazing. I can live inside of a hut, and my neighbor would live like in the tallest tower ever. That's so cool. I get to be poor in real life and video game. That's incredible. What an immersive gameplay.
Several patches
Thank you,
for a good
Blizzard.
swath of the content to get onloaded into the game, and we're still waiting for content announced for the expansion to be even released for it, like Beastmaster, though we did expect that to be late in the cycle. That doesn't make waiting for it better. It's like, personally, as someone who just loves to yap about games, as I'm sure you're aware of,
Mission
if you
tables are
follow
back.
this channel at any capacity, this is easily one of the most interesting things to talk about for me, because I play both Final Fantasy XIV and World of Warcraft. I love both of these.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They charge money for every copy of furniture. Absolutely. I actually forgot about that. It's not like you purchase something and it's forever. You can spam it. No, you have to buy multiple copies of it. That is the most deplorable crap I've ever heard about in my life. Like, that's insane. Not even EA would do that. It's absolutely crazy.
These games. And while they line up in some ways, a lot of the time nowadays, I'm finding that where one game really succeeds, that's the weakness of the other. But that game's strengths end up being the weaknesses of the other as well. It's really fascinating because, well, yeah, there's going to be a whole lot more coming down the pipeline when it comes to WoW Midnight. Like, heck, we're getting Prop Hunt. And remember the delve mechanic I was just talking about earlier? Well, they're basically making something like Mega Delves. You know how there's like Mega Dungeons dungeons in World of Warcraft.
Just
They're
make it
kinda
bigger.
doing that for delves now. And in a later patch at midnight, it's being introduced into the game called Labyrinths. It's like, could it be crap? Yeah, absolutely. We go back to that earlier point where they shove so much out the door for this game that you always have like that 50-50 shot whether or not something's interesting or just slop. What a great idea to iterate
it's
on
almost
that system
certainly
from
slop.
the War Within. And with WoW expansions being even faster now, you never have to wait long for something new in this game. Not to mention, if you ever get bored with retail, there's like multiple versions of Classic you can just go play. This all goes back to like the main story for Midnight being so jarringly bad in comparison because it feels like you lifted a bad story from a different bad game and just put it into this really good game. If they can even get a somewhat passable story into World of Warcraft, like, my god, what a juggernaut it could be. Like, even more so than it already is. And the same thing with like Final Fantasy XIV. Like, if they can just get a firm grasp on unloading new content into the game, I think Final Fantasy XIV could also be in a far better state than where it is right now. It's like, this is why competition is so important, because I want these games to learn from each other, learn how each other develops and designs their respective games and how you could possibly incorporate that logic or that pipeline into your own workflow. It's like there's so much potential for the future of these games to learn from each other. Hopefully the end result is just a better game for the both of us. It's like, I will be harsh on the things that I don't like, and I will be very loud about it. I'm sure you guys can tell. But if you followed my coverage for like Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, I don't require much to get my faith back. And like, it's the same thing when it comes to World of Warcraft.
And that's why Blizzard is still up and running. Because we keep paying, son. We keep believing and hoping that one day our favorite game would be back. We're cooking. But it never does. And we're just being left stranded with our wallets empty.
Like some stories in the War Within I genuinely liked. Like, I liked Undermined as a patch. I know quite a few people didn't. And sure, there's some like weird or like not that good elements to
Gallowix
it as well.
is just nuking people
but, like,
on
my bar
WoW
is not very high, particularly when it comes to WoW. All they have to do is really like to start telling good stories with the game. Not even like
Yeah,
good, just somewhat
only that.
passable is all I need. And it's going.
And the thing is, that probably infuriates me the most, is that Blizzard has the money to pay good writers. They just don't do it because it's not about money, it's about virtue signaling. They want to align their writers with their made-up goals, and their goals is, well, they're not really inclusion, they're hiding either under the guise of inclusion. It's just to make them look better. It's so crazy, it's wild beyond belief. They could have easily gave Chris Metzen free reign over the story, just write whatever you think is necessary. Hire people you know, because Chris Metzen has a lot of friends in the industry that like doing a lot of writing. He can easily find one or two people to write the complete story for World of Warcraft again, right? He can easily do that. But no, they intentionally hold him from doing that because they don't want the story to be good. They just want it to be, well, all about them.
To be a big year for both of these games. I mean, we already talked about it before. Final Fantasy XIV might not get a lot of patches this year, but 7.5 is going to be
the exclusion
a
of
very big
anyone not
patch. And on top of
middle-aged
that, we
Karen.
have the Fan Fest where they're going to be announcing 8.0 and showcasing what the future of Final Fantasy XIV is going to look like.
It is about ideology, exactly.
When it comes to like World of Warcraft, like, my god, every few weeks you get like something new. Like 12.0.5 comes out like only a few days after this video goes up. The expansion feels like it just came out. And then later this year, we're getting BlizzCon, where they're almost certainly going to announce the next expansion, The Last Titan. Well, maybe not announce it, because they already did that at like the last BlizzCon, because they announced all the World Soul Saga expansions. But like, they're definitely almost certainly going to be revealing it. Like, more in-depth and showcasing what that expansion's features are going to probably look like. Probably some of the main story beats as well. And we're getting a revamped Northrend. It's like, it has so much potential. They just need to learn how to tell a somewhat passable story.
Man, they're gonna ruin every single great city in this game now.
I just need something that doesn't make me eye roll every 2 sentences. That's all I need. Just something that's like somewhat passable and fun. It's all I need.
He's asking for too much.
I always hop in on WoW is because I always find myself coming back to the game because I just simply enjoy it. I enjoy playing the game as much as I enjoy playing Final Fantasy XIV. Arguably, I enjoy the gameplay mechanics of WoW a little bit more. Maybe not even a little bit more, like a decent amount. We call it a
lot
moderate
more
amount. But man, I just
Yes.
want to be invested in the story again. And like, let's be fair here. WoW is famous for taking things from other games and just basically lifting them and adding them into the game. I mean, look at Dragon Writing / Skywriting. They basically just took that from Guild Wars 2. And I applaud.
What are you talking about? Clearly, Guild Wars 2 lifted that from World of Warcraft. We all know that. Vistas too. Like, WoW made Vistas, and then Guild Wars 2 shamelessly stole it. Damn, that's crazy. That's absolutely wild. But yeah, like, in all honesty, obviously World of Warcraft was completely lifted from EverQuest. And it's to no surprise, because everyone who worked on World of Warcraft when it first came out, obviously I'm talking about vanilla, is hardcore EverQuest gamer. There's a reason why World of Warcraft skyrocketed in popularity. They knew what the people want. They took EverQuest, they took out everything they disagreed with, and just made World of Warcraft. They built in new features, they've added all stuff, and they took stuff away that people disliked. Because World of Warcraft was way easier than EverQuest, if I remember correctly, like way easier. So, obviously, they made it accessible to a lot more people, and they just made it better.
Applaud them for doing so. I want them to be blatant about this. If someone else is doing what you want to do but better, or has
enjoy
a better
equal
idea than
addiction,
you, don't just take a knee and run out the clock. Mug them. I want you to steal it. I want you to be blatant about it. Heck, I want to see behind the scenes videos of the developers playing these other games going, that's a great mechanic. Get the code. I want to upload it into the game directly. I know that's not how the process actually works. I'm just saying, if it will make World of Warcraft better, do it. And while I don't think World of Warcraft will ever tell a story on...
I actually really agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I think in Guild Wars 2, now that I'm kind of deeper into it, slightly deeper into it, I think World of Warcraft can lift a ton of things from Guild Wars 2. But of course, don't just shamelessly copy them like Dragon Writing. Just make them better. Okay? Like, literally make them better. They can easily do that, and they chooses not to.
Par with like the Hydaelyn and Zodiac arc for Final Fantasy XIV because the game's just not equipped to really do that. I don't think that's necessarily a good excuse for the state of the modern story. WoW can tell really good stories. They do it in the side quests. Heck, one of my favorite quests I've ever done in World of Warcraft comes from Dragonflight. Not the main quest, don't get me wrong, but there was one side quest that I did about
taking selfies with whelps,
hanging off the ledge of, I don't even know what you would call it, like a platform, and you just sat down next to him.
Oh, and speak with a dwarf.
And you know what?
Yes, I actually remember that. Now, it's not my all-time favorite quest, but it was a very chill quest. And I actually was surprised it was there in Dragonflight because everything was so fast-paced. It's like Blizzard had a moment of clarity, and it was all vanished in a puff of smoke. It was a good quest. He's right about that.
But I really loved that quest. It was great. There are quite a few side quests
in
the War Within I really liked as well. There are a few side quests at Midnight where I'm like, this is really fun as well. This is what I go back to when I say the main story being so bad at Midnight is super jarring because the rest of the game feels so much better. I want World of Warcraft in some ways to copy Final Fantasy XIV to tell a better story. You can't tell it one for one like Final Fantasy XIV, but learn from it. How does Final Fantasy XIV
I'm gonna play Where Winds Meet after that.
How does it overall handle writing? Ignore 0.0 for Dawntrail. Look at how it writes dialogue, or how they write dialogue. These are just a few of many major things that they can and should do to increase the quality of the story in World of Warcraft. Stop treating the main story like a series of plot points to hit, just to be able to say, see, we did tease these things. We have foreshadowing. These plot points...
But Blizzard has no foreshadowing because they don't know what the hell they're gonna write next. Blizzard is writing on the current thing. They're not writing for tomorrow. They're not planting any seeds inside of the game because they have no idea what they're doing. They're building off of nothing and they doing nothing. It's insane, because when you have a story, you need to know the start and you need to know the end. When you don't know the end and the beginning, you can't plant anything in between. Otherwise, you will just make something that don't make any sense whatsoever. That's why Shadowlands has been retconned like 6 times by now, because they didn't know what they were doing. Like, oh, the jailer is this, okay, no, we kind of need to change that because it actually coincides with like that, and it conflicts with the other thing, and oh, Sylvanas, yeah, we need to change her as well because, you know, her motives don't really make any sense. So they constantly retconned Shadowlands because they realized they make one hell of an oopsie whenever, you know, they don't have a solid end goal in mind. And it will always happen because Blizzard do not understand how to write a good story.
makes sense. They flow from one to the next. When it's really not a flow, it's a staircase.
Oh, they're trapped
You're
in the
hitting one
Shadowlands?
plot
Okay,
point
that's
and going
why.
to the next one. And you don't care about going from one to the other. You're just like going up the stair. There's not a smooth slope there. I want a good curve. Pause. Focus more on actually telling
Unpause.
those plot points
We
and
want that.
connecting the story from one plot point to the next. And don't just tell it in a way where it feels as if it's designed to target people playing the game on a second monitor. WoW deserves better than that, and it deserves better than Midnight. Final Fantasy XIV deserved better than Dawntrail, and they put in the work to make the story and game better. They aren't all the way there yet, but I think a lot of people kind of think like me, where sure, the end result will absolutely matter more, but if you can start showing a genuine effort to correct and move in a better direction, and we can feel those changes occur quickly or over time, that can go a long way to recouping a bunch of trust. And when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, the improvements are obviously noticeable, going from even point 1 to point 2, and then to point 3, and then to point 4. World of Warcraft Midnight needs that same progression when it comes to Midnight's patches. And with just how quickly they make the content for the game, I don't know if it's going to get that. I hope they do. Maybe not even with Midnight when we get to the last Titan, hopefully. But at some point, they need to earn the hope and copium people still have for this game, that I also still have for this game. I know.
Nope. They're just retro farm addicts, because that's what Blizzard does best. No, it seems to be the end of the video. I kind of got the point by now. So I'm going to leave a link in the description. You guys should watch this guy content. He's truly great. I really like his videos, but they're really long. They're really long. It makes it super difficult because people just lose interest on stream. But I really wanted to watch this one. I truly like this guy content. So yeah, I guess to just kind of summarize, he's absolutely right. He was cooking with this one. Midnight Story is just straight up garbage, and unfortunately, because Blizzard don't understand that the story is so integral when it comes to MMORPGs, because it literally what's built the world that people are taking part of, they just make a bad game. You need to make good lore. It's not about people actually reading it. You don't have to read all the quests to experience the story. You can just play and get, like, what, at least 50% out of it by simply playing and going through the motions, right? But no, Blizzard has to do everything on the nose. They have to do all of the RP sessions that just hold you in place for eternity and just lock you into those boring dialogues. It's, yeah, I mean, what else can I say? It's just sad, man. It's sad to see my favorite game goes up in flames like that.